Today we're going to be solving trig equations by hand. We've done a little bit of this before. One thing to notice, all of our answers will be in radians, and we want to keep them exact terms of pi. So that probably means we're going to be using our unit circle values. So if we look at number 1 here, we want to solve 2 sine of theta plus 1 equals to 0. Now we have to solve it by isolating the sine function. And we do that by first subtracting the 1. So we get 2 sine of theta equals negative 1. And then dividing it by the 2. So sine of theta equals negative 1/2. Now, my sign is negative, so that's going to tell us which quadrants we're in. Our answers, of course, sine is in quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. Next, I need a reference angle. Well, sine is equal to 1/2 at pi over 6. So what I have to do is do the pi over 6's in quadrants 3 and quadrant 4. Okay? So in quadrant 3, it's going to be 7 pi over 6. In quadrant 4, it's 11 pi over 6. All right. For number 2, we're looking at the tangent. Same as said before, we're going to isolate the tangent by adding 4 and then dividing by 4. So we get the tangent of x equals 1. Now we use x, sometimes we use theta, it's okay. Our reference angle is pi over 4. Tangent is equal to 1 at pi over 4 in the first quadrant. Then we have to take a look. Well, my tangent value here is a positive 1. So where is tangent positive? If you need to, go take a look here. All students take calculus. Tangent's positive in the first and third. Now we already have the first quadrant angle. That's our reference angle. So to get the third quadrant, and sometimes it helps to draw a picture, it's going to put us over here. There's our theta. Of course, in the third quadrant, this is 5 pi over 4. Solving for the next one, number 3, cotangent. Be careful with cotangent. I have to isolate it, so we can get the cotangent of theta equals negative 1 over square root of 3. Now, I'm not too sure about cotangent, but if I flip it, I get the tangent of theta equals negative square root of 3. Now, tangent's a little bit tougher to do, so sometimes I go off to the side here, and I do this. Tangent is the sine of theta over the cosine of theta. And everything's always over 2 with sine and cosine. So 3's on top, so it's going to be like root 3 over 2 over 1/2. Because I need the 3 over the 1, and the 2's here cancel. So all I look at is the sine. Where is the sine equal to 3 over 2? And that, of course, for our reference angle is pi over 3. So we know we're in our pi over 3's. Now, where's tangent negative? It was positive in the first and third, so it's negative in the second and fourth. Now, it's going to be our pi over 3's. They're both going to have pi over 3, so I lied out pi over 3's. I just have to determine which one. In the first quadrant, it's pi over 3. In the second quadrant, it's 2 pi over 3, and I just keep going around, 4 pi over 3, and 5 pi over 3. So those are our 2 angles. All right. Now the next row, they do get a little bit more challenging. Cosecant, pretty easy to do. Add the 2, divide by square root of 2, so we get the cosecant of theta equals 2 over square root of 2. So I don't like cosecant, so I flip it and make it sine. So sine of theta is the square root of 2 over 2. And our reference angle, where is sine equal to root 2 over 2? We should know that one. It's pi over 4. And where is sine positive? Well, sine is positive in the first and second quadrant. So we get their angles. In the second quadrant, or in the first quadrant, we get pi over 4. And in the second quadrant, if you need to, 1 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi over 4. And those are our 2 values. Now for the next few problems, they will get a little bit more challenging, so just keep up. And they're not too bad. They're actually a little more, they're more fun for us. If we take a look at the next example here, we have tangent on both sides. So what we're going to do is we're going to isolate it. But before I isolate it, I may switch sides because I like this the bigger number always on the left side. Tangent of theta minus root 3. Bring your tangent over by subtracting it. That's going to give me tangent of theta equals negative square root of 3. And no sense reinventing the wheel. Remember we had that answer from number 3. Remember tangent of theta equals negative 3. We know our reference angle is going to be pi over 3. And tangent is negative in the second and fourth quadrant. So that's going to give me 2 pi over 3. And in the fourth quadrant, 5 pi over 3. And we're done. Right. Number 6, let's take a look here. All right, now number 6, these are the fun ones I like to say because we got to take a square root, the square. So when I solve it, I'm going to get the secant of theta equal 2 squared. Sorry. When we take the square root of that, we actually get two answers. We get the secant of theta equals positive root 2, and we get the secant of theta equal negative root 2. I have to solve two equations here. The first one, cosine of theta equals 1 over root 2, and the cosine of theta equals negative 1 over root 2. And hopefully we can remember this is really root 2 over 2. Whoops, and this was negative root 2 over 2. These both have the same reference angle. Theta r is pi over 4. Theta r is pi over 4. Remember, we get two answers because when you take the square root, you get a positive and a negative, so be careful. Now we just have to determine the quadrants. Cosine is positive in the first and fourth quadrant. So in the first quadrant, we already got it, pi over 4, very easy to do. And in the fourth quadrant, this is 7 pi over 4. Now we deal with the other one. Cosine is negative in the second and third quadrant, and it's still our pi over 4s, except for in the second quadrant, it's 3 pi over 4, and in the third quadrant, it is 5 pi over 4. All right, number 7 and 8, our last two. We have to do an algebra 1 skill. If I have 2 sine squared plus sine of theta equals 0, don't bring this over. They both have a common factor. They both have sine, so I'm going to factor it out. Sine of theta, and that's going to give me 2 sine theta plus 1 equals 0. And then we're going to use an old algebra skill, the zero product property, and set each of these equal to 0. The first one easy, sine of theta equals 0, and the next one, sine of theta equals negative 1/2. And I just solve them. Where does sine equal 0? Now this is a pretty easy one to do. Sine is equal to 0 at 0, pi, and 2 pi. But remember our domain? We don't want to include 2 pi, so we're going to scratch this 2 pi out. So just 0 and pi for this one. Where is sine equal to a negative 1/2? We have to use our reference angle here. The reference angle, sine is equal to 1/2 at pi over 6. And where is sine negative? Sine is negative in the third and fourth quadrant. In the third quadrant, that's going to give us 7 pi over 6, sorry about that. In the fourth quadrant, 11 pi over 6. Ta-da, easy as pie. Not as good. All right, now number 8 is I think is probably one of the harder ones that we're going to see at the beginning here. They do get tougher, but this is kind of challenging right here because we have a trinomial. And you should remember for trinomials you have to factor. And these are a little bit harder to factor, so what I always tell people to do, switch a variable. Make this 2x squared plus x minus 1 equals 0. And factor this. It's much easier to factor. We get 2x, x, 1, 1, positive, negative, equal to 0. And now when I solve it, I'm going to get x equals 1/2, x equals -1. But the only difference is we're going to replace these x's with our sines of thetas. So it becomes sine of theta equals 1/2, sine of theta equals to -1. You're going to get 4 answers here, just like the last one. Okay, so sine, our reference angle, again, is pi over 6. Where is it positive? In the first and second quadrant this time. So in the first quadrant, it's just pi over 6. It's our reference angle. In the second quadrant, it's 5 pi over 6. And this one should be known. For -1, I just do this. Ready? 0, 1, 0, 0, 1. -1, 0, 0, -1. So where is sine equal to -1? Oh, we don't get 4 answers. We only get 1 answer. Down here at 3 pi over 2. We get multiple answers here. So not 4 like I thought, but 3 answers because of when we graphed it out. All right, if you have any questions, we will go over these in class tomorrow. Feel free to ask, okay? And see you then. Bye.